Rain was hitting the windows of the small jazz bar like tiny drums. I sat there alone, watching water run down the glass, thinking about everything and nothing at the same time. It was a Thursday night, the kind of evening when most people are home with their families, watching TV or getting ready for bed. But I was here, nursing a glass of whiskey that had gone warm in my hand. The bar wasn't busy. Just a few old regulars scattered around, lost in their own thoughts. The bartender was wiping down glasses, moving slowly like he had all the time in the world. Soft jazz played from speakers somewhere in the corner. The kind of music that makes you think about your life, whether you want to or not. I'd been coming to this place for about 3 months now. Always on Thursday nights. Always sitting on the same stool. It became my escape. My quiet place to think. You see, my life looked perfect from the outside. I had a good job at an accounting firm, a nice apartment, and I was supposed to get married in 6 months. Everything was planned out. The venue was booked. The invitations were being printed. My future was set like cement that had already dried. But sitting there in that dim bar, I couldn't shake this feeling in my chest. It felt like I was wearing someone else's clothes. Everything fit, but nothing felt right. My fiancée and I had argued again that evening. Same argument we'd been having for weeks. She wanted a big wedding with 300 guests. I wanted something small. She wanted to buy a house in the suburbs. I wasn't sure I wanted to be tied down like that. Every conversation lately felt like we were speaking different languages. I checked my phone. 15 missed calls, 23 text messages. I put it face down on the bar. I just needed an hour to breathe, to think, to figure out what I was doing with my life. The bartender glanced at me but didn't say anything. He'd learned I wasn't much for conversation on these nights. The clock on the wall said 9:47. I remember looking at it and thinking I should probably head home soon. Face the music. Apologize even though I wasn't sure what I was apologizing for. That's when I heard the door open behind me. A gust of cold air rushed in, bringing the smell of rain and wet pavement. I didn't turn around at first. People came and went. It was a public place. But then, I felt it. You know that feeling when someone is looking at you? That prickle on the back of your neck? I turned my head, and there she was. She stood just inside the doorway, shaking rain from her dark coat. Her hair was damp, sticking to her face a little. But what got me were her eyes. She was looking right at me, not past me, not through me, but directly at me. Our eyes met. And I swear time did that thing it's not supposed to do. It slowed down. 3 seconds. Maybe 4. It felt like forever. And no time at all. I looked away first. I always do. I'm not the kind of person who holds eye contact with strangers. But my heart was beating faster, and I didn't understand why. She walked past me, her shoes making soft sounds on the wooden floor, and she sat down 2 stools away, close enough that I could smell her perfume. Something light and floral. Close enough that I knew she'd chosen to sit near me, even though the whole bar was empty. The bartender came over, and she ordered a gin and tonic. Her voice had an accent I couldn't quite place. European, maybe. She had this way of speaking that made even a simple drink order sound interesting. I pretended to look at my phone, but really I was watching her reflection in the mirror behind the bar. She pulled a book from her bag, an old book, the kind with a worn cover and pages that looked like they'd been read 100 times. I recognized it immediately. It was a book I'd loved back in college, before life got serious, and I stopped reading for pleasure. Before I became the kind of person who only read emails and business reports. I don't know what came over me. Maybe it was the whiskey. Maybe it was the fact that I'd been sitting alone with my thoughts for too long. Maybe it was something else entirely. But I heard myself speaking before I could stop. "That's a great book," I said, my voice sounding strange in the quiet bar. "I haven't thought about it in years." She turned to look at me. And that smile. Man, that smile was something else. It wasn't polite or forced. It was genuine. Like she was actually happy I'd spoken to her. Like she'd been hoping I would. "You've read it?" she asked, turning her body slightly toward me. Her eyes lit up in a way that made me feel like my opinion actually mattered. Most people I meet have never even heard of it. I nodded, feeling myself relax for the first time all evening. Yeah, back in college. It changed how I thought about a lot of things, made me question what I wanted from life. I laughed a little, though it came out bitter. Guess I forgot those lessons somewhere along the way. She tilted her head, studying me like I was something interesting rather than just another guy at a bar. That happens to most of us, she said softly. We start out with these big dreams and ideas, and then life happens. Bills need paying. People have expectations. Before you know it, you're living a life you never actually chose. Those words hit me hard. I felt exposed, like she could see right through me. That's exactly it, I said, surprised at how easy it was to talk to her. How did you know? She smiled again. But this time, there was sadness in it. Because I lived it too. Until I didn't anymore. See, the bartender brought her drink, and she thanked him quietly. I noticed she didn't check her phone once. She was just present, right there in that moment, giving me her full attention. It had been so long since anyone had done that. My fiancée was always on her phone, planning, organizing, posting pictures of the wedding preparations. Even when we were together, she wasn't really there. I'm sorry, I said suddenly. I shouldn't be bothering you. You came here to read, and here I am interrupting. Don't apologize, she said, closing the book gently. I came here because my hotel room felt too quiet. Sometimes you need to be around people, even if you don't talk to them. But talking is better. She paused, taking a sip of her drink. I'm only in town for tonight. Tomorrow I fly out, and I'll probably never come back to this city. So if we're going to talk, tonight is the only chance we'll get. There was something about the way she said it that made the moment feel important. Like this wasn't just random small talk between strangers. This was something else. Something that mattered. Where are you from? I asked, genuinely curious now. Originally, a small town you've never heard of in Eastern Europe. But I haven't lived there in 5 years. I've been traveling. Working odd jobs here and there, staying in hostels, sleeping on beaches, living out of a backpack. She said it matter-of-factly, like it was the most normal thing in the world. My mind couldn't even process it. That sounds incredible. And terrifying. It's both, she admitted. Some days I wake up and have no idea where I am. Some days, I don't have enough money for a proper meal. But I'm free. Actually free. Not the kind of freedom people talk about when they mean they can afford a nice vacation once a year. Real freedom. The kind where every day is yours to decide. I felt something twist in my chest. Envy. Maybe. Or regret. I can't imagine that, I said quietly. My whole life is planned out. Where I'll be next week, next month, next year. It's all decided. By who? She asked simply. I opened my mouth to answer, then closed it. By who? By me. Supposedly. But was it really? Or had I just followed the path that was expected? College, job, relationship, marriage, house, kids, retirement. The standard template, the safe choice. I don't know anymore, I finally said, and saying it out loud felt like admitting to a crime. She didn't judge. She just nodded like she understood completely. I used to have a life like yours, she said, her voice soft but clear. Good job. Nice apartment. I was engaged to someone who looked perfect on paper. Everyone was so happy for us. My parents loved him. My friends kept saying how lucky I was. What happened? I asked, leaning in without realizing it. I woke up one morning, 2 weeks before the wedding, and I couldn't breathe. Literally, couldn't breathe. I was having a panic attack, but I didn't know what it was at the time. I just knew something was wrong. Really wrong. She paused, her fingers tracing the rim of her glass. I realized I was about to promise forever to someone when I couldn't even promise tomorrow. I was marrying him because it was the next step, because everyone expected it. because saying no would disappoint people. But I wasn't doing it for me. My throat felt tight. So what did you do? I called it off. That same day. Gave back the ring. Moved out of our apartment. My family didn't speak to me for 6 months. I lost most of my friends. Everyone thought I was crazy, throwing away a good man, a stable life, for nothing. She looked at me with those steady eyes. But it wasn't nothing. It was everything. It was my life. The only one I'll ever get. If you and see you, and far, the jazz music continued playing. But I barely heard it anymore. All I could hear was her voice, her story, her truth. It was like she was holding up a mirror. And I didn't like what I was seeing. We sat there talking for what felt like minutes but must have been hours. The bartender refilled my glass without me asking. The few other people in the bar had left one by one until it was just us, the bartender, and the soft music that seemed to wrap around our conversation like a blanket. She told me about her travels, about teaching English to kids in Vietnam, about working in a cafe in Barcelona where she barely spoke the language but learned by listening, about sleeping under stars in the Australian outback and waking up to a sunrise that made her cry because it was so beautiful. Every story she shared was filled with life, real life. The kind that makes your heart beat faster, just hearing about it. And I talked too. More than I'd talked to anyone in months. I told her about my job, how I spent 8 hours a day staring at spreadsheets, making sure numbers added up for a company I didn't care about. I told her about my apartment that was supposed to be temporary but had become permanent. I told her about my fiancé and how we'd stopped really talking somewhere along the way. We discussed logistics now, wedding details, financial planning, adult stuff. But we never talked about dreams anymore. We never talked about who we wanted to be. Do you love her? She asked suddenly. Not cruelly, just curious. Like she was trying to understand. I opened my mouth to say yes automatically. That's what you're supposed to say, right? But the word got stuck. I care about her, I said carefully. I don't want to hurt her. We've been together for 4 years. We have history. We have plans. That's not what I asked, she said gently. I stared at my drink. The ice had melted completely. I don't know what love is supposed to feel like anymore. Is it comfort? Is it habit? Is it that person you can sit in silence with without it feeling awkward? Because if that's love, then maybe. But if love is supposed to be something that makes you excited to wake up in the morning, something that makes you feel alive, then no. I don't think I do. She didn't say anything for a moment. She just let my words hang there in the air between us. Then she asked something that broke me wide open. If you found out you only had 1 year left to live, would you still marry her? The question hit me like a punch to the stomach. I actually felt the air leave my lungs. 1 year. 12 months. 365 days. Would I spend them planning a wedding? Moving to the suburbs? Doing the thing everyone expected? No, I whispered. The word came out before I could stop it. No, I wouldn't. Then why are you doing it with the life you have? I couldn't answer. I had no answer. The truth was too big and too scary to look at directly. I'd been sleepwalking through my own life. And this stranger, this woman I'd known for a few hours, had just woken me up. The bartender called out, "Last call." I looked at the clock, shocked to see it was past midnight. Where had the time gone? She finished her drink and stood up, pulling on her coat. I should get back to my hotel, she said. Early flight tomorrow. Where are you going next? I asked, not wanting her to leave, not wanting this conversation to end. Morocco. I have a friend there who runs a small guest house. I'll work there for a few months, save some money, then maybe head to South America. I've always wanted to see Patagonia. She said it so casually, like crossing continents was no bigger deal than crossing the street. That sounds amazing, I said, and I meant it. I also felt a deep ache in my chest, knowing I'd probably never do anything like that. It's pouring outside, she said. looking toward the door where rain was still hammering against the windows. But the hotel is only about 10 blocks from here. I like walking in the rain. Helps me think. I don't know what possessed me, but I stood up. I'll walk with you. Make sure you get there safely. It's late. She smiled that smile again. Your place is in the opposite direction though, isn't it? How do you know that? Lucky guess, she said, but I'd like the company. If you're sure. I threw some money on the bar, probably too much, but I didn't care. We stepped out into the night, and the rain hit us immediately. Cold and steady, and somehow cleansing. The streets were empty. Our footsteps echoed on the wet pavement. The city looked different at this hour. Quieter. More honest somehow. We walked slowly, neither of us in a hurry. She told me more about the places she'd been. The people she'd met. The versions of herself she'd discovered along the way. I listened, hungry for every word, every detail. It was like she was describing a different planet, one where people actually lived instead of just existed. Aren't you scared? I asked after a while. Not knowing where you'll be? Not having security? Terrified, she admitted. Almost every day. But I'm more scared of waking up at 60 and realizing I never really lived. That I played it safe and missed everything important. Fear is going to be there either way. At least this way. I'm afraid of things that matter. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I knew without looking it was my fiancé. Probably angry, probably worried, probably both. I let it buzz. You should answer that, she said, noticing. Not yet, I said. Not yet. We kept walking through the rain, two strangers sharing truths they probably couldn't share with anyone else. The hotel came into view too soon. A modest place, nothing fancy. The kind where travelers stay, not tourists. She stopped at the bottom of the steps leading to the entrance. This is me, she said. I nodded, suddenly not knowing what to say. Thank you felt too small. Goodbye felt too final. Would you like to come up? She asked. Not for anything weird. Just to dry off. Maybe talk a bit more. I have coffee in my room. And honestly, I'm not ready to say goodnight yet. I stood there on the sidewalk, rain running down my face, my clothes soaked through. My phone buzzed again in my pocket. The smart thing would be to go home. Apologize. Pretend this night never happened. Go back to the life I'd built, uncomfortable as it was. The smart thing. The safe thing. The expected thing. But when I looked at her standing there under the dim hotel light, water dripping from her hair, something in me shifted. This wasn't about romance. This wasn't about running away with a stranger. This was about answers. About understanding how someone finds the courage to actually live. About maybe, just maybe, finding that courage in myself. Yeah, I said. The hotel lobby was quiet and empty. Just a tired clerk at the desk who barely looked up as we walked past. Our shoes squeaked on the polished floor. The elevator was old and slow, and we rode up in silence, both dripping water onto the floor. She unlocked her door, and I stepped into a small, simple room. A bed, a chair, a tiny table by the window. A backpack sat in the corner, half packed. That was it. Her whole life fit in that bag. She grabbed towels from the bathroom and threw one to me. We dried off as best we could, and she plugged in a small electric kettle she'd pulled from her backpack. Always prepared. Always ready to move. Within minutes, the smell of instant coffee filled the small room. We sat at the tiny table by the window, watching rain run down the glass. The city lights blurred and sparkled through the water. It was beautiful in a sad kind of way. Can I ask you something? I said, wrapping my hands around the warm cup. How did you know? How did you know walking away was the right choice? And not just you being scared of commitment or making a huge mistake. She thought about it for a moment, really thought about it. I didn't know, she said honestly. Not for sure. Maybe I was making a mistake. Maybe I was throwing away something good. But here's what I did know. When I thought about marrying him, about the life we'd planned, I felt heavy, like I was carrying rocks in my chest. When I thought about leaving, about being alone and uncertain, I felt light. Scared. Yes. But light. Like I could finally breathe. And now, do you have regrets? Some days, she admitted. There are moments when I'm exhausted, when I'm sleeping in another uncomfortable bed in another strange city, when I have to count my money to see if I can afford a proper meal, and I think about how easy my old life was, how comfortable. But then I remember that comfort was killing me slowly. It was safe, but I wasn't alive. Not really. I took a sip of coffee. It was bitter and too hot, but I didn't care. I've been feeling that heaviness, I said quietly. For months now. Maybe longer. I just kept ignoring it, telling myself it was normal. Wedding stress, work stress, adult life stress. But sitting here with you, talking like this, I feel lighter than I have in years. And that scares me. Because what does that mean? It means you already know your answer, she said simply. You just haven't admitted it to yourself yet. My phone rang then. Not a buzz. A full ring. My fiancée was calling. I pulled it out and saw her name on the screen. 15 missed calls. 37 text messages. I could see the first few messages without opening them. Where are you? 4. Undered. Why aren't you answering? I'm worried. Are you okay? This is ridiculous. If you don't come home right now, we're done. I stared at that last message. An ultimatum. Come home, or it's over. Part of me felt angry. I'd asked for one evening to think. Just one evening, but another part of me felt something different. Relief? Maybe, because she'd just given me an out. A reason to end things that wouldn't be entirely my fault. I should take this, I said, standing up. Of course, she said, understanding in her eyes. I stepped into the hallway and answered the call. Hey, I'm sorry. Sorry? Her voice was sharp, angry. You disappear for hours, don't answer your phone. And all you can say is sorry? Where are you? What's going on? I just needed some time to think. I went to that bar I like, and I met someone. We've been talking. You met someone? Her voice went up an octave. Are you kidding me right now? You're with another woman? It's not like that. We're just talking. She's leaving town tomorrow. Then what is it about? Because from where I'm standing, my fiancé disappeared, ignored my calls, and is apparently with some random woman in the middle of the night. So please, explain to me what this is about. I took a breath. This was it. The moment of truth. I could lie, make excuses, go home and pretend everything was fine. Or I could be honest. Really honest, maybe for the first time in our entire relationship. I don't think I can do this, I said quietly. The wedding. This life we're planning. I don't think it's what I want. Silence on the other end. Long, heavy silence. Then, are you breaking up with me? Right now? Over the phone? While you're with another woman? I'm not with her. Not like that. But yes, I think maybe we need to stop this. Before we make a mistake, we can't undo. A mistake? Her voice cracked. 4 years together is a mistake? The wedding we've planned is a mistake? The life we've built is a mistake? No. That's not what I mean. Those years mattered. They did. But I think we've been holding on. Because letting go is scary. We've been together so long that we forgot to ask if we should still be together. And I think, if I'm honest, we shouldn't. More silence. Then crying. Soft at first, then harder. It broke my heart. But underneath the sadness, I felt something else. Certainty. Clear, solid certainty. Don't bother coming home, she said through tears. I'll pack your things. You can pick them up when I'm not there. I can't believe you're doing this. I can't believe you're throwing us away. I'm not throwing us away. I'm setting us both free. You deserve someone who's all in, someone who's excited to marry you, someone who doesn't need to run away to bars to think. That's not me. And I'm sorry it took me this long to admit it. She hung up. No goodbye. Just silence. I stood there in that empty hallway, phone in my hand. My entire life changed in the span of a 5-minute conversation. I should have felt devastated, guilty, horrible, and maybe I did feel those things, but stronger than all of that was this feeling of lightness. Like chains I didn't know I was wearing had just fallen off. I walked back into the room. She looked up at me, and somehow she already knew. You okay? She asked softly. I don't know, I said honestly. I just ended my engagement. I probably just lost my apartment. I'm standing in a hotel room with a stranger, soaking wet, drinking bad coffee. By all accounts, I should be a mess. But you're not? But I'm not, I said, almost laughing at the absurdity of it all. I feel free. Is that terrible? Is that cruel? It's honest, she said. And honesty is never terrible, even when it hurts.